started producing more simple breads, which are cheaper. The Moscow government held a press conference and had a calm reaction to this report. With this extreme decision, we stopped food wastage. The prices which stopped the excess purchase of bread, these prices are it's easier to lower prices than to raise them in the future. There's very little sugar in Moscow. The Ukraine did not supply Moscow with sugar. Starting November 25th, the government will provide Muscovites a compensation of 60 rubles to compensate for bread and sugar price increases. The previously announced ration cards have been cancelled. No ration cards will be issued in Moscow, according to the latest news. In the city of Krasnoyarsk, the teachers have staged a strike. This is a one-day strike of teachers and educators. In Ivanov, trade union committees have staged also a teacher strike. In Kolyma, Chukotka, there were also a wave of political rallies and meetings of teachers, because in our current conditions, the teachers find themselves below the poverty level. Today, President Gorbachev met in the Kremlin with the Undersecretary of Agriculture, Richard Crowder. Agriculture. And they discussed issues of Soviet-American cooperation and the modernization of Soviet agriculture. Market conditions, the creation of model farms near St. Petersburg, utilizing American experts, discussed issues of American education systems in the Soviet Union. The American delegation noted that this visit helped them understand the situation in the Soviet Union, and that will help them in their briefing of President Bush. Possibility of the creation of joint military units with Soviet and German troops was expressed by the German Defense Minister Stoltenberg. Soviet Defense Minister Shaposhnikov and German Defense Minister Stoltenberg held a joint press conference today. There is much interest by officials from Germany about the preservation of unity of the Soviet Army, and much concern about individual republic armed efforts. There's optimism was expressed in this conference about future developments. There were official greetings between the military leaders of both nations, military parades. Soviet specialists demonstrate their skills. Such contacts a year ago were unimaginable. Today are becoming more common. This is not just a display of military technology, but each meeting carries with it more human contact. The presence of German partners, of German officials at the Soviet minister's visit to German barracks will introduce a new element, discussion of daily problems. I believe that my colleague and I can positively evaluate this conference, this meeting, with a very optimistic atmosphere. We can develop, widen our cooperation between our armed forces. There are many new directions that could be taken. We must exchange our views and opinions. I have clarified many positions about your new military reforms, upcoming reforms, and changes in the structure of the Soviet military. Military strategic issues can be discussed at higher levels, at bilateral and multilateral talks. And of course, personal contact is very important in international relations. After talking to one another for many years, many hours, we get to know each other better. German radio station reports that the Soviet defense minister's visit to Germany is occurring at the same time that NATO is changing its policy, and at the same time that the Soviet Union is changing its concept of its own security. There's concern about the growth of Republican military forces, and very important is the guarantee essential control of nuclear weapons. Radio Liberty reports that Armenian President Petrosyan is in Washington, D.C., soliciting support for his republic and recognition from the USA of Armenia. Voice of America reports that Bush, at the inauguration of new CIA Chief Gates, stressed that there can be no cutbacks in the CIA until the situation in the Soviet Union has been regulated. New accusations against the family of the Marcos family in the Philippines are arising. The widow of Marcos has had 54 charges against her currently. Dubrovnik, Yugoslavia. The Yugoslav National Army has occupied part of Dubrovnik. A ceasefire has been declared between the National Army and the Croatian militia. Yugoslav naval forces have permitted ships to enter the Dubrovnik ports and evacuate refugees, women and children, and foreign journalists. Lord Carrington is the chairman of the International Conference for Yugoslav Peace, and the resolution of the Yugoslav crisis is once again in the Balkans, and is making a last attempt for peace. His plan is to introduce European peacekeeping troops. Council of Ministers of European nations are holding and discussing the potential of creating a European political unity to resolve the Yugoslav war. Differences. In New York, Moscow Patriarch Alexei II has met the General Secretary of the UN, Perez de Cuellar. Alexei II discussed the role of the Church, his goals, and one of these goals is the prevention of inter-ethnic conflicts in the Soviet Union. In Paris, Yves Montand died. He's an actor, theater actor, movie actor, made 50 films, and spent almost 50 years on the stage. He was a political activist also. More than many French people trust his opinion more than that of the Prime Minister and the President of France. Autumn leaves carry away grief. Autumn leaves carry away memory and grief. Autumn leaves on the streets where Yves Montand used to like to take walks. Son of an Italian stonecutter, emigrated to Italy in the 1920s, escaping fascism. In 1938, he first appeared on the stages of Marseille, and for 50 years he was a famous French actor. He told the doctors that I lived a happy 70 years, and I am not upset about dying. He always had a youthful appearance, Montand did. Of course, not all 70 years for him were easy. He was a barber at one time, worked in the docks, And once he committed himself to something, he did it with 100% of his energy. Marilyn Monroe acted with him. He had a very exciting life. He was married for 30 years. No, this spring, Montan wanted to perform on stage. He wanted to sing for his young son, who had never seen his father on stage. He died. He was buried at Père Lachaise. It was raining on the day of Yves Montan's death.